It was Chuck King. He was the graduate student, administrative intern in the TV studio, and it was his idea to do a newscast. And he clearly saw the potential of the facilities that we have and wanted to make more opportunities for students.
I knew I wanted to get into television, and I figured the only way to get into the television stuff was to be doing a television newscast. So we decided to do it, and then we set about haphazardly throwing stuff together to try and figure out who would be involved and what we could do. And the idea was to make it look as much like a regular newscast as possible.
And I'll never forget walking across the quad as we headed towards the Harry Jack Gray Center. And Mike Bees looked at me and he said, "You still want to be a sportscaster when you grow up?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "All right, this is cool. I'll definitely be there." So on that Friday afternoon, we all gathered at the edit suite at the Harry Jack Gray Center, which eventually became the STN newsroom.
We bounced around names and came up with STN as a group, and we launched our first newscast.
As you may know, it took us several shows before we actually were live. We were live to tape a lot.
Live from the University of Hartford campus in West Hartford, Connecticut, direct from the TV studio in the Harry Jack Gray Center, it's the University of Hartford TV News.
Hi, I'm Steve Jarmy, along with Aaron Vitone for UHTV News.
But the toughest part, I'll tell you, there were folks that actually wanted Channel 2 News to be a part of the curriculum. And they didn't want us to be independent. We said no, absolutely not. We wanted this to be independent. We wanted to do our own thing because we knew we would learn more as a result.
But we all kind of had to learn everything. We had to learn how to shoot an interview, how to edit together a news package, how to write copy, pretty much how to do everything. We were all kind of figuring it out as we went along. We really relied upon everything that the TV studio offered. And we kind of begged, borrowed, and stole equipment and facilities to get things going.
We didn't have an office space. We didn't have storyboards to be able to write, this is a package, this is a VOSOT.
At the time, we had basically one editing bay and 2 cameras, I think, so you pretty much had to live in the TV studio in order to get time to work on your story. So we were always there until the wee hours of the morning.
But the first time we actually did a real one, that one was pretty funny because Steve Jarmy, who was one of the news anchors, didn't know we were live. And at one point he said to me during one of the commercials, he's like, "Thank God we're not live." And I looked at him and I go, "We're live, dude."
But when you're live, the pressure really starts, and I mean, there's no greater training for the real world than, you know, a live broadcast.
My freshman year, I was directing, and all I remember, our chief engineer, Mike McCarthy, was in the control room with me, and then all of a sudden my headset, as I'm directing, someone says, the light's on fire?
Yeah, we were live on there. It was like 5:15 in the middle of the show. Hey, there's a fire in the studio. Oh boy. I ran the other way.
And I turned to Mike McCarthy and I said, "McCarthy, there's a light on fire in the studio." He paused, okay, and turned and went in there and went behind the set, climbed up in the middle of the newscast, and took care of it.
My freshman year, we were doing the news, and all of a sudden they started planning New Year's Eve. I'm like, "You guys go?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we go in the press corps and do it." Like, "That's cool." And we had our little spots at STN2 right there. Mayor Giuliani came up to do an interview with somebody, and he would only do the interview with the one station he came to see. Everyone asked him for an interview. He said no to everybody but us.
The biggest and the best celebration of the New Year we've ever had in New York City. The best crowd, and I think everybody here is feeling the excitement of the Millennium Year.
Well, the biggest one I think was the September 11th one, and we went down on the 14th, and we were there all day, and we were just surrounded by other press, and everybody had to wait in line for a press pass at the police station, like the headquarters. So I remember we were waiting in line for like 4.5 hours or 5 hours, just waiting for this press pass, and we were excited about, you know, making a good story out of it.
At all. Well, with the help of Channel 2 News, that'll certainly come true.
I'd say the story that I really liked was covering the New Hampshire primary.
We sent camera crews with all the candidates on the buses, so they got shots of John Kerry playing ice hockey.
We actually got to ride on the press buses with all the national and local press, and really kind of got a taste for what it was like working on a campaign, reporting on a campaign. Even though it was just for one day, it was still just a really great experience.
If I had to pick the biggest event in University of Hartford history that I was there on was absolutely the Halloween riots. I've never seen anything like it. It was a small fight that broke out between two kids, and then just their buddies joined in, and it turned into a mob, a brawl. And the first thing we did, because it was Halloween, so people had were out partying and dressed up, we had our camera girl dressed up in a maid outfit, running out there with a camera, and they wouldn't let us get close. And we just snuck around, and we saw a kid's blood on the ground from getting hit by a club. Blood on the ground. That was the most incredible story we ever covered. Another big story we covered, and this was huge throughout the state of Connecticut, was the Michael Ross execution. We were there.
Convicted serial killer Michael Ross sat in his cell Friday night awaiting death.
And you look down the row of cameras, and there's everyone from New York, Connecticut, and STN.
But floods, there was a huge flood one year, and the water came all the way up to public safety, and cars up to the roofs covered in water.
Seeing a rescue mission, they had like a rescue team go out in like a raft. This kid was stuck in the car, and we had close-up footage, like they were pulling it towards where the camera was standing. You know, I'll never forget that.
Technology changes. When I started was we were shooting SVHS, and we were editing linear on 3/4 inch, which I don't see here anymore. But back then it was old. At the end of the day, I made the decision to go DVC Pro because it gave the students experience with equipment that they'll see in the field.
It was funny because we only had one DVC Pro camera to start with, so some people had to shoot on SVHS, some people had to shoot on got to shoot on DVC Pro, and there was always like a fight for it because it's such a huge jump.
My biggest memory when you had to do VTR, try carrying, I don't know, 20 beta tapes in this huge bucket, where now you can just carry an old bag, 20 DVC Pro tapes. That was a big change for the better. One thing that sticks out for me in my time in STN that I think made such a big difference, but it was so minute, was changing the set. It was a big project for myself and everybody else involved with that, and there were a lot of people. And it was about a 2.5-year project, I believe. And I just think it makes the newscast more credible, a better image, a better look.
We got it ready to go right before an SBJ show. I think we finished it the night before. It was ready to go on air.
Well, it looks like we got our news set.
Another big story that I covered kind of had a personal tie for me. In Rhode Island, there was the Station nightclub fire in 2003. So I did a local piece on that, going out to the Webster Theater and talking to them about what they have for safety and what their concerns are. And I thought that was a pretty big story, and it wound up getting me an SBJ award.
The most memorable moment for me in STN was when we won first place for the Society of Professional Journalists non-daily newscast. First place in the Northeast region, and that same year we were voted number 3 in the entire country. That's never been done before in STN.